I still wake up at night, and I wake up thinking, what could have I done better? This will forever change me. There's no question about it.
As soon as I heard about this, I started making plans to get to Alabama to help Don share his story about his crash.
Wow, Don had no options out there to the southwest. Those trees are thick, and that's where he had to put it down. If he had taken off the other direction, I got all kinds of fields right here, but not to the southwest.
Don't save the airplane, please. Don't save the airplane. Save yourself.
Kudos for not trying to force the impossible turn and try, but he was so close, but not close enough.
But when that engine quits, you can talk about it all day long. But is there anything that I could have done better? For sure, something to take. But what I'm trying to do is take this information and assimilate it to everybody out in your audience so that they don't do what I did. If they do, survivability, that's the big one.
My visit to the Patriot Aircraft factory also yielded an awesome new camera mounting rig.
Pull now, pull now, pull now.
And a combination aerobatic sighting gauge.
Oh my God, it's so good. The triangle is so good.
Absolutely gorgeous.
The RV-14 is here at Patriot Aircraft, and it's cool, but also sad to have it beside the Byrd, which I flew with Evelyn and Jill.
We're flying a Jeep here, right? This is a Jeep.
Yeah.
Not a sports car.
So unfortunately, the Byrd is probably not going to fly again, but it did its job and saved the lives of both Don and his passenger when they force landed in dense trees. Lots of takeaways from what happened and the aftermath of that crash that I want to share. So when I heard about Don's accident, I planned on coming out to visit him anyways to do a debrief about it. It's further south than where I was going to go for the Aerobatic camp that I'm heading to in a few days, but it was definitely worth the detour. But it was still a significant cross country going from Toronto to Alabama via Buffalo, which is where I cleared customs. And there was a massive SIGMET along my route, so I planned to leave later in the day and try to get behind it.
I just watched the SIGMET update and become huge. Like, I looked at it minutes ago and it was what it had been for hours, and then I just refreshed it. Yeah, so this is a classic case of using the tools, because that just updated. Now it's huge, and now it's an hour later. I guess going until 20:55 Zulu. Before it was 19:55. But anyways, I'll get as close as I can and see what happens. If I have to stop, I stop. I can get all this information on my avionics, but I just like it better on the iPad SIGMET. Oh, it's all there. Yeah, so there it all is, but I could do that on this screen as well, but I like to leave that as my PFD engine data, situational awareness. Kind of like just looking at radar on that one, I think, and then the iPad.
The timing worked out well with the dusk arrival, which was good because I did not want to go night VFR in that haze, and the instrument procedure is not approved at night. And then we started working on the plan for the next day. And Don, being Don, is super awesome. He saw what I was working on project-wise to get a camera mount combined with a triangle mount on my wingtip, and he said he thinks he could do a little better than what I was looking at doing, which wasn't going to be probably solid enough realistically for a triangle. So we are doing some from the ground up engineering to make a solid mount that's going to hold the camera pole and a triangle for my sighting gauge, so I don't have to worry about it shaking and breaking nut plates in the skins or whatever might have happened if I used what I was thinking of using, which is great for a camera, but I think adding the triangle as well to the FlightFlix plate mounts was asking a lot. So that's the Insta360 X5. It's an incredible camera, and I'll be talking more about that in the future, but that's essentially what inspired this project. That's all FlightFlix hardware holding the pole. The triangle is made of carbon fiber arrows, and the team at Patriot Aircraft built these brackets which connect to the last rib of the wing, essentially connecting to the spar. So it's super solid. The project ended up going longer than planned, so after the daylight faded, I stuck around and stayed that night to finish up the following morning, but boy, it was worth it. Okay, so we are drilling the fiberglass with the match drill trick of the cardboard floppy trick.
The old floppy disk trick went all the way through. Dead line.
Right there. That is the final step to getting the triangle camera mount installed. Ron is drilling it, and Don is making sure it's straight, and Kevin is also making sure it's straight. It worked amazingly well at the Aerobatic camp, and it was surreal to get coached by Michael Goulian.
All right, well, it's an honor to fly with you today, Michael. Really appreciate you fitting me in.
I'm excited. Let's go do it and see how the sighting device works.
He confirmed the triangle was calibrated correctly, and over the next couple days gave me some tips to really help tighten up my flying. This will be a future episode, but for now I wanted to share this teaser of what it's like to be coached by one of the world's best.
Okay, I think actually quite good.
Right on. That was my best hammer.
All right, let's get back to the debrief with Don sharing insights about his crash. I think the takeaways from hearing your story for me were very sobering. There's several key points that I think are worth really getting into, one of which being how long you ground ran it for afterwards, which I think a lot of people think if you run for 10 minutes, you're fine.
Yes.
We can talk about why that wasn't the case. But then the other one was just how crazy close you were to home base, and yet you were so far.
Yeah, this is thick.
You can die out there if you're injured, even being 100 feet in the forest.
Yep.
So let's talk about that side of it and what it took to get out, and then what you learned that you would change going forward to not find yourself in that situation.
So the airplane was right here, and then they cut all that down and set the tail down. And coming in, and you see there's nothing damaged. We hit the tops of those two trees that just basically slingshotted it straight down. You see no down trees other than what they cut to get the airplane out. I mean, it was just about like looking at that.
Yeah.
And you think about an airplane with the tail sticking up in the air, nobody could see this. Yeah. Nobody could. It was amazing. There's so many things that went right that we didn't really consider initially, the things that went wrong or things that could have went wrong. And so from my standpoint, when I got ready to crank the engine up first thing in the morning, it was first flight and didn't, filled the tanks up to about third on each one, and sit there and run here on the ramp, because again, it's first crank of the day. Went over to the runway to take off, and from the time that I started the engine to the time I got ready to take off, it was at least 15 minutes, maybe longer, because again, first flight of the day, trying to warm the engine up. So it wasn't like I just got in an airplane and took off. And most folks, when they do that, they say, well, if I got water, in the fuel system, by then I'm going to know it. That's not the case at all. So it was very interesting. Like I said, again, surreal. Engine never burbled. Did the run up on the engine, mag check. Did everything that you're supposed to do except for sump those tanks. And when I got ready to take off, the engine never even made a burble. So I had a chance to say, hey, I'm good, and a lot of us do. We've ran that long. If there was water in the tank, there's no way it would have not shown up at that time frame. So when I got ready to take off, of course, everything, went well, right to the point where I got to about 200 or 300 foot and I leveled the engine off. That's when the engine quit. And so all the baffles in the tank is one of the things I've learned about. Baffling, especially like airplanes that have bladders in them. There's a lot of waviness in those tanks. And unless they're completely full of fuel and expanding that bladder all the way out, there's spots, there's low points all in there. There's, like I say, baffles in my tank that we have. And what it wound up doing is getting me that false sense of security. And I think a lot of people probably would feel the same way. So there's water on the other side of that baffle, and when I really pulled the nose up and I pushed that water to the back, then it could finally come up and over where the hole is in the baffle. Even to the point where waiting 15 to 30 minutes after you fuel an engine, and sump for water, especially if the airplane's leaning at all, now there's a chance for that water to be outboard on one tank, and so you need to make sure your airplane's level. So there's just a lot of good things talking with people, and probably the most interesting thing and possibly the scariest part is how many people I've talked to, and not a single person can tell me they've sumped their tank every time that they've put fuel in. I think that's the thing that I want to try to make sure everybody understands, because there's some things that are in your control and there's others that are not. This for sure is one lesson that I've learned real well, and I've talked to a lot of folks. They say, well, if I sump my tank, the Curtis valve, the drain valve, wants to continue leaking. Well, that should really tell you that you have a problem with your drain valve, or maybe you've got some debris that's in the tank, and so when you sump it, a little piece of that debris gets underneath the O-ring. To me, that shouldn't be an excuse. If that's your excuse, flush, take the drain off, flush it out, put a new drain in or put a new O-ring, because you can buy the O-rings. They're cheap. They're pennies on the dollar. It's amazing, those little bitty things. Again, that 1% thing, we start adding up. Well, I didn't sump it because my drain's not working. I didn't sump it because I knew where the fuel was coming from. I didn't sump it because I'm the guy that filled the tank, and I'm very meticulous every time. So that's what we're kind of talking about. But the other thing is, let's talk about post-crash, but not knowing which way to go from here to there. And we got about halfway out, and we saw a spot about the size of a softball. And we seen a fire truck come by, and she called her fiance and says, "Hey, the fire truck just went right by us. Come back right there." She said by the time we made it out to the edge of the woods, they were all kind of gathered in that general area. So it was strange, man. Like I say, knowing where I'm at, but not knowing where I'm at.
So that took us, I don't know, 30 seconds or a minute in this thing to drive out.
Going that slow.
And that was going real slow because of the bumps.
Yep.
So walking out in that dense stuff, you guys might as well have been, like, if you were any more hurt, that would have been a really difficult journey.
I don't think I could have done it.
So close and yet so far from home.
Probably took us 20 minutes to get out just this short a distance. I haven't heard too many people until I started telling them, hey, I just had this crash. And then people tell me the story. I'm like, why haven't I heard this story? These are the important things, because if you survive the crash like we did, I'm literally 300 feet away from the trees on our runway. I know I'm south of the runway. I know that. I've been flying over this field for years. But when I made my turn back in, I'm facing the sun, so it's real bright, 9 o'clock in the morning. And as soon as we went into the trees, we went down to such a hard angle so fast, the canopy is super thick. It's like a jungle out there. And we were on the ground and could not see the ground because of how dark it was down inside there. My passenger, because fuel was coming over the windshield, and we had to get out of the airplane. It was imperative we get out of the airplane. So she's unbuckling, and I'm turning everything off and getting ready to unbuckle myself. And she says, "Where's the ground at?" And I said, "Well, we're on the ground." She says, "I can't see the ground." And same thing for me. My eyes hadn't got adjusted yet. I couldn't sure answer that question. And so it took a second. I adjusted my eyeballs, like I say again, while I'm trying to unbuckle. So we climb on out of the airplane. But that's when things really took even another turn, because we were so disoriented, and I couldn't see any reference. There was no reference to north, south, east, or west. But I knew for sure they were really close to the runway, but did not know the direction I needed to go. That was another important and kind of a surreal moment, because we got away from the airplane and we're like, okay, which way did we really go? We don't know. So having a compass, on board, having, a GPS locator system.
Everybody talks about having a survival kit or whatever if you go into the wilderness.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, I've got an ELT on the airplane, but the reality is the ELT isn't going to pinpoint your location in the forest.
No.
And you guys are needing to be found within a few hundred feet. And you had emergency vehicles out there that couldn't find you.
Couldn't find us. So we could hear them.
You were on your own to get out, even though it was only 300 feet. And if you were severely injured and you didn't have, a tourniquet or things like that on board in a survival kit that you would have had in the wilderness, you might as well have been in the... I guess that's what it comes down to. That's the takeaway for me, is that you kind of need to think that we're in airplanes and we can get to the wilderness very quickly from an urban center.
Yes.
That can be hundreds of feet or thousands of feet or a mile. But that distance can be impossible to traverse if you're injured.
Yes.
Even if you're not injured, it could be just a really awkward spot.
What we learned talking to other people is tourniquet kit. Having it hanging right there wherever you're sitting, you should be able to reach and grab it.
Ideally a vest.
A vest is perfect. Having that tourniquet, also for me, the other thing that was interesting is the seatbelt cutter. Thank goodness I've lost a lot of weight. I used to weigh 300 pounds. Now I weigh 219 pounds as of this morning. But yet, when I was bent over, because we're at a 60, 70 degree angle, and I had to dig through my last little fat roll to get my lap belt undone. And that was surreal again, another little tidbit. And if I'd had a seatbelt cutter close in hand, it wouldn't have been no big deal. Just reach, grab it, and cut it, and got out of there. One of the things that I will do from now on is I will have, those emergency, quick things, stuff you need in the first, minute of the crash available to me. And no matter, like here, I was doing a demo flight, and in took off here at my airport that I know like the back of my hand. I mean, I've been here. I thought about if I ever had a problem where I'm going to land. I knew all those things had been, I went through those in my mind and did exactly what I wanted to do. Thank the Lord that, that He kept me calm to do what I needed. But when that engine quits, you can talk about it all day long. Trying to turn back and get back to the runway was my intent, because straight ahead was water. No way that I'm going to land in the water, because your survivability really starts going down quickly. I know how slow our airplane can fly, so yeah, hitting a tree, I'm probably going to break something like I did. But like Bob Hoover said, perfect, saying, fly the airplane all the way to the scene of the accident or the crash. And that's exactly what I was taught, and that's exactly what I did. I thank the Lord for keeping me calm, but also thank the guy that taught me all these things, Mark Henley, a really good friend of mine. Those are the things that got us to the ground, but the after effect, keeping calm, moving forward, getting out of there. But we sat down once we got out of the woods, and I went to the ER to get checked out and all that stuff. And we come back, and the guys here at Bibb County Airport, the airport authority, the guy that's the president, he said, he come to us, and we got all our team members together, because, when the accident happened, everybody just rushed in there. Like I said, about 25 volunteers from the local fire department, sheriff's department, police department, EMTs, everybody. And all they did was hit the woods. They didn't know where we were at. And so they just go blazing in there. No, there was no really organization. They were just thinking about saving us. And I appreciate it a ton. But what we've learned since the incident is he come in and sat down with us. He says, and I told him, I said, man, the first responders were great. Everybody was great. He says, you're right. They did do great. But what did we do wrong? And we talked about entry into the airport. We talked about having an ELT locator on the fire truck, because an airplane could crash anywhere out in these woods, and without an ELT or some kind of smoke trail, you're not going to find you. And we're 300 feet away, and they couldn't find us. So I encourage people to sit down and think about that. Don't just go running into the woods. Make sure that you got some handheld radios and say, okay, we're going to stay within 20 feet of each other, and we're walking into the woods. And in our woods right here, they're so thick, you probably need to be 10 foot away. It's really that thick. It's hard to see. And so it was interesting. We're halfway to the hospital. The ambulance service had a drone. That's how they found the airplane. We're already out of the woods, halfway to the hospital, which is about a 50-minute drive. They still don't know where the airplane's at.
So more than an hour for them to find.
Yeah, more than an hour, and it had to be found with the drone. So we were able to slow down real slow and then hit those trees, and then we just went boom and hard in, and there was nothing for anybody to see. And the brush basically just swallowed us back up. So that's one of the things that we learned from that standpoint is if we were unconscious, there's no way without an ELT locator and that drone, they would not find us. Yeah, I'm going to tell you, man, it's one of those things I still think about. I really do. Yeah. And I don't think I'll ever forget it. I don't think I will. And I hope I don't to a certain degree. Yeah. So, all right, cool.
Let's go modify an airplane.
Let's do it, man.
A future episode, we'll get into more detail about the camera mounts and cover the Aerobatic camp. Check the description for details about that for now. And until then, keep your flight chops sharp.
So it's dawn out here, and I just finished picking my fuel stop. And that's a huge part of what I love about forward flight. I can wake up, throw a route in, look at the fuel prices, look at the terrain, and check the airport specs, check the airport comments, and then check the weather. Not necessarily in that order, but I knew the weather was going to be good, so today wasn't really a concern about planning my route around the weather. And then boom, I'm going to Virginia from Alabama, and I'll be heading the rest of the way after that fuel stop. Also planning to try to work it out so I get to where I'm going with a little bit over half. That's usually the amount that I like for aerobatics, and I'll be doing a bunch of aerobatic flights at the camp.